Welcome to New Horizons by Migration ETC, the podcast where we explore the journeys of people who take bold steps to move abroad, start fresh, and create new opportunities. Today's guest is Amanda Dunbar, a US citizen who spent years in the corporate world, traveling extensively and experiencing different cultures. But her journey took a very interesting turn when she decided to settle in Sicily, Italy. What's even more intriguing? She bought one of those famous €1 homes and is currently in the process of rebuilding it. What inspired her to take this leap? What has life in Sicily been like? And what challenges and surprises has she faced while restoring an old home in a foreign country? We'll dive into all that and more in today's episode. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to the show. To begin with, can you share a bit about your background? Where were you born? Where have you lived over the years? And what led you to move to Sicily in southern Italy?
So I am American, and I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the U.S. And so went to school in Pittsburgh, started my career in Pittsburgh. I used to be in buying, so in corporate buying. So I've worked for some big American companies like American Eagle Outfitters and Calvin Klein and Foot Locker over the years. So I had a very long professional career of about 23 years, and that took me all over the world. And I lived in California, and I lived in New York City and Amsterdam and Singapore and Jakarta and all over the world. And after 23 years, I sort of, was ready for a change. And, I had the opportunity to visit Italy quite a few times throughout my career. And every time I landed in Italy, I loved it. I loved everything about it. The food, the history, the culture, the language, the people. I loved everything. So when it was time to make a move, I spent 2 years researching where to go in Italy, where I was going to land, getting a visa, because it is quite a process. And I ended up, here in Sicily. And I've been here for about 6 months now. I've purchased a property, I've renovated a property, and I'm now settling down here in Sicily. So it's my next chapter, basically, of everything, of my life. So that's a little bit about me, just in a nutshell.
Wow, that sounds quite amazing, and you've obviously had such an interesting journey. So what specifically drew you to Italy, and why Sicily in particular, considering Italy has so many major cities like Rome, Milan, and others?
So, every place that I moved overseas, it was only for work. I was there for work, and I was moving on my own. I've been single, and, I don't have a life partner with me. I have a little dog who's my partner, but, so it was definitely much more professional based and not really personally, like I didn't always feel a personal connection to all of these different cities that I was in. I mean, I had friends, but they were all, work friends that we would, hang out together outside of work. So, I never felt that personal connection, but I felt a personal connection with Italy for some reason. And meanwhile, my family's not even Italian. I have Eastern European background for myself. So, but there was something that I just connected with Italy every time I was there. I spent time in, the bigger cities, so Milan, Rome, some time in Venice, Parma. I had to work there quite some time. So I got a chance to, see a lot of different parts of Italy. And I really loved southern Italy because it's cheaper, it's very warm, and it's easy to get around, travel by train along the coast down in Bari and Puglia. So I spent a lot of time down there as well, sort of exploring places, could I see myself living there one day? And, I also had a connection with the language as well of, I lived in all these different countries, but I was very hesitant to spend a lot of time learning the language like Dutch or Bahasa when I lived in Indonesia because I was like, they're just not pretty languages, if I'm going to spend all this time learning a second language. I felt a passion for Italian, and I studied it quite a few times. I tried to pick up the language quite a few times over the years, and I was like, I wanted, to also become fluent. And, I loved the challenge of coming to Italy and trying to learn the language and interacting with people and, you know, just trying the language. And yes, I get it wrong. I still get it wrong all the time. But the fact that you're trying and the Italian people are so excited that you want to learn and you want to, there's a connection there. So coming to Italy, I scouted for about 2 years, trying to find, what's the city that I can really connect with. And I was, like I said, spent a lot of time down in Puglia. So Bari, Poliano, Di Mare, which I love, Salento, all of those places. And then I started taking trips over to Sicily. And, the €1 home program initially really intrigued me. The idea of buying a home for €1 and spending, money and time sort of fixing it up and making it something new again really intrigued me. So that's the reason also I came here and I landed in this town here in Salemi in Sicily. I came here in March of 2022, and I have to tell you, so that was about 3 years ago already. And when I initially came, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was raining. It was siesta, and I was like, "There's nobody here. Like, why would anybody move here?" But I kept following. There's a community here, a small international community here and they kept posting on Facebook, and I kept being very intrigued by it, of like some of the things that were happening here and the growing expat community. And something just made me not give up on it. And I was like, I don't know, there's something here. So I kept coming back. And every 6 months or a year, I would come back. And I probably made about 4 visits to this town, and every time I saw more development happening and I saw a bigger, like I saw the community growing and there was more expats from a whole bunch of different places throughout the world. I'm like, there's something here. And it was April of 2024, so less than a year ago, that I was here and I met a ton of other people. And I'm like, this is it. I can see myself here. So started scouting for houses, um, quit my corporate job in July of 24 and made the move permanently. So I had to spend a little bit of time. I have property also down in Phuket, Thailand. So I had to spend a little bit of time, a little bit more time down in Asia, mostly to get my dog out of Asia and here to Europe. So there's quite a process to move animals between, because Asia's high rabies country and Europe is not. So there's quite some paperwork and it's just a little bit of a lengthy process. But so yeah, spent a little time in Thailand, then got on the plane and moved here. And I've been here since September 1st. And the expat group is growing and it's so nice. When you make a move abroad, you need a village. Like you need a community of people that's going to help you, especially if it's not your native language, not your native background. You need others to help you along the way. You cannot, I mean, you could do it, I guess, on your own, but it's going to be challenging, right? So um, the community here, we have residents, we have expats that are full-time, like myself. There's a few of us. And then there's quite a few other English, Americans, Swedish, whole bunch of different nationalities that come in and out, 3 months on, 3 months out, that kind of thing. So it's really nice because we have this collective, desire and goal to renovate houses here, repopulate the town. Salemi is under 10,000 people. A lot of the Italians have moved away for job opportunities, what have you. So it's a small town, and they're looking to attract younger people, and younger meaning like 40s, 50s, not teenagers. They know that's not, realistic. So, but people to come back and, bring life back into the community. And it's happening. It's working. I've seen it over the last 3 years, how much excitement there is happening. And, it's growing. We're buying our houses, we're renovating the houses, but we're also being welcomed into the community, which is also really, really nice to see because the locals see that we have the same end goal in mind, that we all want to see this little town thrive. And, I was actually out last night and just having a few drinks at the local bar. We have like two local bars in town and that's it. And, the owner's like, well, there's a big festival next weekend and the community is putting together the decorations for the festival, which it's actually made out of bread. They do these little decorations made out of bread, and there's a real craft to it. These artisans, they can mold this bread dough into these beautiful creations, and so like once a week they've been gathering as a community and making these little bread art, and they invited us, for Monday night for the next session. And so I woke up this morning just thinking like, how exciting, like, to be welcomed into these type of, local events and things like that. So it's fun. It's been fun. No week is the same as the last or is going to be the same as the next, but it's been a lot of fun.
So tell us more about this whole €1 home thing. How did you first hear about it and what was the process like for you? What challenges did you run into along the way? And are there any you're still dealing with?
Yeah, so the €1 home program in Italy, I mean, it's been on CNN. I've seen it on different Facebook groups. And how the €1 house program, if you don't know the background of it, is, some of these houses in Italy, a lot of the houses, they're passed down from generation to generation. So grandparents pass them on to their children, then pass them on to their grandchildren. And the job opportunities in some of these towns are not, there's just no job opportunity. So people move away. Sometimes the houses are just abandoned, and so then they can't find the owners, and then it just goes up for sale on a public auction for €1 because it's taken over by the city, and then they put it up for auction. So it's a very intriguing program. It sparked a lot of interest, especially, in the middle of COVID when everybody's like, well, screw this, with what's happening with the world. I can buy a house for €1 and live in the countryside of Italy. Like, who wouldn't love that, So I think, it's definitely intriguing for myself and for many, many people. And, not all €1 homes are the same. Some of them, €1, yeah, you could get a decent structure that doesn't need a lot of work. For people that don't know, they do go up for auction. It's a public auction, so it starts at €1. You may not pay €1 at the end of the day. There are closing costs and administrative fees, so it can be done. We have a neighbor that actually bought a €1 house. They ended up paying €11 for it total, and then plus their costs on top of it. But some of them are just literally a pile of bricks, and other ones, need a little bit of work. So it really depends on the town and, the structure. But it's also like, the program also entices people to come to Italy to take a look. And then, they may look, and that's the case for myself as well. You may look at a €1 house and think, oh gosh, this is going to be a project, and then you can also then see while you're there a €20,000 house that needs a little bit of work, and you can probably move into it a lot faster. And that was my case, so it was, and that's the case for many people, that, you come over for the €1 and then you sort of switch into something that's a little bit more manageable. And So I came here, I looked at quite a few houses, and initially I did look at a €1 house, and it's still up for sale because it is a project. I mean, like no roof, no windows, doesn't have a plumbing system, doesn't have an electrical system, and that's very overwhelming, especially if it's your first renovation, which is my case. So I initially had my eye, I did put an offer about a year ago on a house that's not this one that I'm in, actually. It's a different one, but it had some paperwork issues and oh, it just, paperwork and, the Italian bureaucracy and red tape, it's no joke. It is real. And, it's just something that you have to consider if you're going to make a move full time to Italy. It's just a fact of the matter. And like, just have patience. It is what it is. You're not going to change it. So you either embrace it or you leave it. That's your options, right? So, the first house, though, I made an offer. It needed a new roof. It was taking 7 months, no progress on it. And in the 7 months, the roof continued to leak, continued to have water damage, and the house ended up, it needs to be renegotiated on the price. So I walked away. And my real estate agent had actually showed me this house that I'm actually living in and renovating at the same time. And it was $25,000 and needed a little bit of work, and that's what I ended up going with. So ended up making an offer on it, and within 3 weeks I had the deed to the house because the paperwork was ready to go, and we started construction, and so that's what I've been working on the last 2 months, was really renovating it and getting it to a good place that I could live here comfortably. Still have some work to do, um, but yeah, so that's how I ended up here in this house.
Um, this sounds very interesting, Amanda. Thanks so much for sharing all those valuable insights. Now, if someone out there is thinking about taking the same path as you, the €1 route, what are some key things they should watch out for before making the leap? And what was the process like for you?
Yeah.
We'd love to know your
So,
thoughts and insights on these.
yes, yeah, for sure. So, a €1 house, there's a number of things that you're going to want to consider. First of all, €1, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. It's not going to be €1 at the end of the day. So €1 is the starting auction price. And like I said, it goes to auction. So you may auction still end up paying 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. It really depends on the location of the house, um, the shape that the house is in. So there's a number of factors, the interest, from the community of buying the house. So know that, first of all, it's not really €1. You do have administrative costs with that, and you have to pay taxes on it. So those are things that you just, it's not going to cost that much. The next thing you have to be aware of is paperwork. There are just paperwork issues that, like, if you want to double check that it has all the paperwork, or because these houses that are sold for €1, you typically have 2 to 3 years. You have a time limit on them to get them fixed up. So, and the time limit is on the outside of the structure. So you must renovate the outside of the structure, usually within 2 to 3 years. It's determined by the municipality that you buy it in. So it's not just like buy it and take your time. Like, the outside of it does have to be done in a certain amount of time. And the outside of it must also fit within the aesthetics of the town. So you can't just willy-nilly come in and decide, oh, I'm going to do that. Like, those plans are going to have to be approved by the municipality before you do any work. And that's where, the red tape comes in, and it could hold you up for a little bit, and it's going to take time. And, the municipality is really good about, if you don't hit that time limit, but you're at least making an effort, nobody's going to, take the house back. We do have houses here, though. If you don't hit that time limit, they will take them back. They'll take them off of you. So that's something else that you just have to be aware of. of like the paperwork involved in that, and then the outside of it has to be approved by the municipality. The inside, depending on what you're going to have to do, if you're knocking down walls and reconfiguring a house, that also has to be approved before the work is done. So those are things that, they're going to take time. So €1 homes, A, they're going to cost more than you think they're going to cost, and B, know that this is not a quick project. These are timely projects, that this is a 2 to 3 year at least project that you're going to be working on. And if you're not on the ground, that's another thing. If you're not on the ground managing it, or working with a property, like a project manager that can manage it for you while you're not on the ground, it's going to be very difficult for you to do it by yourself remotely. So you have to either consider being on the ground, or hiring a project manager, which, that's additional cost that you have to think about. I think the other thing that people need to think about is buying a home in Italy does not grant you citizenship, it does not grant you residency, and it does not give you a visa. So those are completely separate processes that people need to think about. So depending on where you're at, for myself, because I'm non-EU, so Americans, as an example, are only permitted in Europe for 90 days at a time, for a total of 180 days in any 1 year time period, right? So that's without a visa. So even if you buy a house, that doesn't give you the right to be here year round. So that's definitely something that people, it's a misconception that home ownership grants you the right to be here 365 days a year, which it really doesn't. So that's a whole other process.
Thanks, Amanda. That was so detailed. Really appreciate it. So, coming to the visas, we know that Italy offers different types for those looking to relocate and live there. Could you share some of your insights on this? We'd love to learn more from your experience.
So I tell people there's 2 different visas that are your best options. So the more recent one that's very much achievable for many people is the digital nomad visa. So if you're able to work remotely, I would highly suggest the digital nomad visa. I think you just have to show 29,000 euros in income throughout a year, and then you can get a digital nomad visa, and that would allow you to be on the ground and also work remotely and be on the ground in Italy for 365 days a year. So that's option number 1. Option number 2, which is how I did it, was the elective residency visa. So that is for people that basically you cannot work on the visa. It's almost a retirement visa. So you cannot work on the visa, but you have passive income that is coming through that allows you to afford being able to live on the ground, but not need to rely on a job on the ground. So because I have rental properties down in Thailand, but you have to show passive income. That could be Social Security, that could be from your pension, it could be from a 401k, it could be some rental income, and has to be consistent rental income. So if you have a lease tied to a property that you're renting out, not Airbnb, because that's not consistent, but if you have consistent passive income, and that's 31,000 euros, if you can show that, then you can also apply for the elective residency visa, which will allow you to be here year round. You won't be able to work, you won't be able to hold a job anywhere. And then, that'll give you the right to stay here 365 days a year. So those, I would say, are the 2 most common options for people that want to be here year round. Of course, there's other visa opportunities if you really have the money and want to invest. There's I think it's 250,000 euros if you want to invest in an Italian startup, 500,000 if you invest in philanthropic things in Italy. So there's other ways to get visas, but they're much more, costly. And I don't know if 1 Euro Home program people are the same type of people that can invest 500,000. So probably two separate, you know, very different people. So
This was very elaborate. Thank you, Amanda. So, the second visa option you mentioned, the one you chose, does it have a minimum income requirement, either monthly or annually? And does that amount vary? Also, is that income subject to taxation?
so it's the minimum income is 31,000 a year, passive income. If you're married, I believe the income requirement is 38,000. There's some passive income that, yes, well, as an American citizen, you have to pay American taxes no matter where you live in the world. So your US taxes are always going to happen. So am I taxed on all of my passive income? Yes and no. Like rental income, yes, I'm taxed on. I'm not taking from my 401k right now. I'm not taking from, some of that stuff. I actually have it set up where, and I've told people as well, sometimes retirees, they have the assets, because that's the thing, that's the elective residency visa takes a look at passive income. It does not take a look at your assets. So I could have $10 million sitting in the bank, but because it's not passive, it doesn't count. So the way to get around that, and that's my case actually. I own assets to be able to live here, but I don't necessarily have passive income coming in. So basically you take your assets and you move them through a trust, like through a trust fund, so that it shows that you're collecting money, basically right pocket to left pocket, to show that you have money coming through your accounts. And so because I'm not earning money on that, I'm not taxed on it. So it's not taxable income. Now, I have not filed taxes yet in Italy, so ask me the same question this time next year, and I might have a different answer, but so far, I'm not taxed on my. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Amanda. That was very useful. So, since moving there, what has surprised you the most about the place? Which of your expectations were met and which ones fell short? And in what areas do you think there's room for improvement? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
That's a really good question, actually, because like I said, if like I knew coming in, if you're coming to Italy, you just have to acknowledge the red tape and the bureaucracy. It's no joke, and you have to just be patient. So yes, I knew that coming in. So set the bar low, because then you won't get so frustrated. But there are still things that you just want to hit your head against the wall and just be like, "Are you serious?" Like, I'll give you an example. This is one example. So within 8 days of arriving in Italy, you have to make your declaration on your visa. You have to declare, I'm here, I'm applying for residency. And you have to send in an application for residency. And you go to the post office and you get a receipt and you basically sit and wait. And at least in my town, because it's not consistent across all of Italy. This is just my town. So you sit and you wait and you get a registered letter back that says, okay, now you have an appointment to come down and give your fingerprints, and we follow up on the process, and then we will process your residency. Fine. So I waited 4 months. I got the letter, and they said, my appointment is in September of 2025 at 11:24 a.m. on a Thursday. I'm like, okay. So I just sit and wait, and I say, okay, that's fine. But then I have another American that I helped maybe a couple weeks ago. He went through the same process, went to the same post office, submitted his paperwork, and he was immediately given an appointment to go down and give the fingerprints. It's just like stuff like that where you're just like, why? So I guess they changed the rules and could start giving out appointments. And so now I'm waiting until September, but he was able to get his appointment for May. So it's stuff like that where you're just like, there's no rhyme and reason as to why this happened. And the trouble that I'm having with that is what I've learned on the ground. Because the town that I'm living in, I need a car, right? So I've been renting a car initially. I was renting a car until I could figure out how I could buy a car, where, how, when, whatever. Well, I then learned on the ground that I cannot buy a car without residency. So I have to rent a car month to month until I get that actual residency, which now is going to take until September and then could take another 6 months on top of that. So, that was something that I was not expecting for sure. I did not think, the process to buy a car was going to be as extensive as it is. So that surprised me. But, it surprised me, but didn't surprise me. It was sort of like, of course, so, but, at the same time, there are things that, pleasantly surprised me, like how welcoming everybody is, how understanding that they are, that I'm not fluent in Italian, I don't know Sicilian, and it's fine. We get by with the language. All of my contractors, the plumber, electrician, contractor, carpenter, none of them speak English. It's been fine. We figured it out. That was fine. So that was easier than I had thought it was going to be. Things like that have been easier, and how welcoming they've been has been much pleasantly surprised at how welcoming they've been in the community. So I think those counteract some of that red tape and bureaucracy. So it's a nice balance. It's a nice trade-off. And I think that's what makes it a little bit, easier as well. Of like, this community has been so welcoming that if I do run into an issue, they make a phone call and it gets sorted, So, I don't have a gas tank for my stovetop when I first moved here. And I'm like, I don't even know what do I do? And somebody made a call and they're like, okay, get to your house in 5 minutes. It's going to be delivered, so that kind of stuff, or I don't have garbage pickup. They're like, okay, I called somebody. They're going to be there tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, they're going to pick up your garbage. So, things like that. It's very true in Italian culture. Everybody knows a guy that will get something sorted for you. You just have to ask around, make friends, and build your network, and somebody knows a guy that can figure it out. So that's the pleasantly surprised about, that makes up for some of the red tape.
That was really insightful, Amanda. Every place comes with its own set of challenges and advantages, and obviously Italy is no exception. Now, restoring an old home in a new location comes with its own set of complexities. How did you navigate the planning, approvals, and assembling the right team for the project? And for anyone considering a similar journey, what key factors should they be mindful of?
Yeah, so I was lucky. My house didn't need a tremendous amount of work. So I'm actually very lucky. It's not a 1 euro home. So it did need some work, and I moved some things around. So, I'm glad I didn't take on a bigger project, because to your point, it can be overwhelming, to find all these people when you don't know. So, when I talk with other people about buying a house, like, how do you find contractors? How do you find this? It really takes a village. So you really have to make these connections. So for myself, it was finding the real estate agent that was he's been working on this town. He grew up here. He has a passion about revitalizing this town and getting it back to the way it was when he was a kid, So he works with buyers that, really have a passion for this, that aren't just buying a place to flip it. And like, this is not a community you're flipping in. This is a community that they want to build and grow. So, finding the realtor who then put me in touch with a project manager who worked on a BBC program actually here in this town. And So he helped me then find a contractor and helped with the language barrier because the project manager spoke both English and Italian, so he could work with me and the contractor. The contractor then had contacts with an electrician, a plumber, all those kinds of things. So he was able to get his team of people in. And so it's really, everybody knows a guy, and it's really, when I do talk with people about, and they ask, how do you find these guys and how do you find the workers? It's really through word of mouth and the connections in the community. And that's how you're going to find it. The other thing that, I think I was really lucky about, which I don't know, I didn't know at the time, but I'm learning now. I did my renovation throughout the winter time when the weather is not great. So I started my renovation back in December. So December, January, February, when it's slower here. And I'm glad I did that. And, it can be a bit of a challenge because the town's much more quiet. In the winter time, it's cold, it's miserable some days, like it's not bright, sunny, Sicily in the middle of January, but I'm glad I did it because now people are coming in for the spring and the summer, and the contractors are so backed up, because there's limited amount of workers, limited amount of, this is a town of 10,000 people. We have like 3 plumbers. So I'm glad I did it then because I do have, like, my neighbor's just moving in. She's going to start. They can't get to her house until September. So, I'm very lucky on, in hindsight, I'm really glad that I came in and spent the time over the winter to get it done when the contractors were available.
That was very useful, Amanda. Do you see yourself settling in this place for the long term, let's say 5 or even 10 years from now?
I get that question a lot too. People are like, is this your forever home? And I'm like, I don't know. This is the 6th home that I've owned in my lifetime, my short lifetime. And so I can't firmly say that this is going to be my forever home. I know I'll hold on to it for at least 5 years. That's sort of the terms that I have as well. Like, if you're a primary residence, if this is your primary residence in Italy, you pay no property taxes for the first 5 years at least, which is really nice. That's another benefit people should know. But is it my forever home? I don't know. And if I'll be living here in 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. Potentially this is the first of many projects that I'll be working on in this town because, the project's nearing the end right now, and I'm kind of sad. As much as crazy as it is with all these people coming in and out of the house and everything, I look forward to it, and now that they're not coming in every day to work on this and work on that, I'm sort of sad. I'm like, it's coming to an end. Like, I'm ready for a new project. But and also at the same time, like, this is the first house I've renovated, so it's very personal to me. This is, of all the houses that I've owned, this is a very personal project. So I do feel a connection with this home a little bit more than I did with any other home that I've had. So, you know, never say never, who knows? When I bought my house down in Phuket, Thailand, I bought it as a real estate investment thinking, oh, it's no big deal. I have a very big connection to that home too. It's 8 years later, and I share it basically with so many people from around the world. That's, but it's my home, it feels very special to me as well. So who knows? Who knows where, things will grow and change throughout the next couple of years here. So yeah. Yeah.
Before choosing Sicily, Amanda, did you consider any other locations for living? What other options were on your list?
Yeah, and for sure, for myself, that was actually Thailand. Thailand, I had been considering for a number of years, and that's not out of the realm of possibility for the future, because to be honest, when I was thinking about between Thailand and Italy, Thailand's actually much easier to move to. You can buy a visa that will get you 5 years residency on the ground. I already own my home there, so I have very little operating costs. So for me to walk away from my job and just be able to live comfortably down in Thailand would have been the easier option. And who doesn't love, 90 degrees, 30 degrees, Celsius year round and sunny? I mean, who doesn't love that? But, and that may be in my future, if I'm honest. But I had been living down in Asia for 5 years, and because my friends and family are really based in the United States, that's a hell of a, trip for them to come over. So, the time difference, it's a 12-hour time difference. So, phone calls and everything always had to be scheduled. You can't just like pick up the phone and call somebody. So I didn't feel like I had the support network there necessarily, to be able to feel comfortable. And I don't, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel the same connection to the community like I do here. Have I made as much of an effort? No, not necessarily, because I knew it was always a temporary place that I was staying, so, and it's funny because I spent 2 months there in July and August, and I started to make those connections with people, and I'm like, oh, now I'm kind of sad that I'm kind of leaving because, yeah. So I mean, I think Thailand, it was definitely my backup, and it's not out of the realm of possibility in the future. I think, my parents are getting older, and if, something happens with them, like I could see myself down in Thailand or going back and forth between Italy, and Thailand.
And how does the cost of living in Sicily compare to other places you've lived?
Yeah, so the cost of living in the United States is so out of control, and I talk a lot about it on my TikTok of just, I watch my parents from everything. I mean, health insurance is number one. My parents are 65 and 70, and they're semi-retired, but not fully retired because they literally cannot afford to retire. Health insurance costs them $15,000 a year. They have property taxes on 2 homes that cost them tens of thousands. That alone, those two things alone, I wouldn't be able to afford that if health insurance and property taxes in the United States. It's just, it's crazy. And then, I went back to the United States in November for Thanksgiving, and just even groceries. I walked through a grocery store. I was like, what the hell happened here? Like, what? It's insane. So the cost of living there is just, versus Italy, I have no property taxes. I pay $400 for the year for my health insurance. And my groceries are maybe 15, 20 euros a week. It's insane. So those two, that just made the United States, not to mention the political division and everything else, like just no thank you. Like I have no intention of ever moving back to the United States. Thailand, the cost of living is very similar to here. So, I own my house there. I do have property taxes. I think it's under $1,000 a year. Groceries pretty comparable to here. You can get around on bikes and scooters super cheap. So to go to the grocery store, on a motorbike is $2 maybe, so you don't even have to have a car. They have, the Grab service and Ubers and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cheap. And you're right there on the beach. So, it's pretty similar. So Thailand and Italy is pretty similar. Italy's a little bit more expensive for me though because of the visa and all that kind of stuff. So, but Thailand's pretty comparable.
That's very helpful, Amanda. So, when someone is trying to decide where to move, what key factors do you think they should consider before making their choice, say between Italy and Thailand? What should be the deciding factors in their decision? One thing you mentioned earlier is the time difference, but what other aspects should they keep in mind?
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, Yes, the time difference is one. Cost of living, I mean, everybody's circumstance is a little bit different. I tell people, well, do you want to, for myself, well, within Italy, as an example, they have a great public transportation system, but it's not in every single city. So, are you willing to drive? Are you not willing to drive? That's something that you're going to want to consider. Um, the language, you do have to consider, you have to make an effort. You can't just say, I'm not going to learn the language, especially in Italy. You can get by in Thailand, but, just knowing the basics. Um, Unfortunately, it's really surprising to me as well that I have people that I've met even in this town that are like, absolutely not, I won't learn Italian. It's just rude. It's disrespectful. You're not going to be welcomed in the community. I mean, this is like basic common sense here, like um, you're going to have to learn to embrace, the local culture, and you're going to have to accept that things are going to be out of your control. So that's with a move to Italy, to Thailand, to Hong Kong, to Canada, to anywhere. So, accept what you cannot change, and just learn to embrace the unknown. I think no matter where you go. But it really, ultimately will depend on, your lifestyle, your family situation, your visa situation. Um, there's a number of factors. For me also the climate. I mean, I love 30 degrees and sunny year round, but I also love the seasons, so that's also for me. I love being in Italy because there's at least some seasons. Luckily, it doesn't get too cold here in Sicily because I am still not adjusted to even like 10 degrees Celsius. I'm not adjusted. I'll have 5 sweaters on because I've been in Asia. Um, so yeah, that those are there's a number of factors. But when looking, you know, big city, little city, big city, it's gonna be easy on transportation. It's gonna be easy to find things, but you're gonna pay more for it. Your taxes are gonna be higher. Your cost of living to rent or to own a place is gonna be more expensive. Um, you know, but it's gonna be easier to adjust. So there's a number of factors and I tell people it took me 2 years to really get to this place because the visa took a while, of course, but before you settle down, you really want to explore a number of options just so you could even go and say, you know what, that one's not for me. I think it's better to at least go and try and, think about. I tell people, go and spend a day just doing what you would normally do at home. Go grocery shopping, go to the park, walk your dog, walk around the neighborhood. You know, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel safe? Do you feel welcomed? Um, can you see yourself in this sort of lifestyle? Because then you just have to get into the fact that it's going to be uncomfortable, initially. But do you feel like you can do this? And of course, you're going to have days where you're frustrated or you need some help or whatever, but you're going to feel much more comfortable asking for that help if you feel comfortable in that community, to just raise your hand and say, you know what, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing.
That was very insightful, Amanda. Thank you. Now, do you also feel that moving to Sicily has created new opportunities for you? Has it opened any new surprising doors for you?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that question because I've been thinking a lot about it. That, I thought, okay, I'll quit my corporate job, I'll renovate a house, I'll just settle down and just live life in Italy. And now talking with the rest of the community, it's like, and doing my TikTok, which I never expected that to take off the way that it has. That, I love, there's such a curiosity of the lifestyle here and also the opportunity to help other people achieve that, especially with, it's the timing, just, the new president coming into the United States, and I'm, you know, talking about my life here in Italy and how I bought a house for $25,000 and this is my life now. And it's just the timing couldn't have been more perfect, I guess. And, if people aren't, there's a lot of people that want to leave the United States. There's a lot of people that just want to live vicariously through those that have made the jump. So I love explaining things. I'm just living my life on my TikTok, and I'm just telling people this is my daily life, and people enjoy that. And I love telling them. I have this whole other community of people that I've met through my TikTok, which has been amazing. But I'm also working with some other locals of how can we also put together a week. We're actually starting some tours for people as well that we've sort of planned out a week. I think if people have never been to Sicily, sometimes they can get overwhelmed of like, well, where do I go? What do I do? How can I experience it? We've started to put together like just a week of events so that people, if they want to come over, we did all the heavy lifting for you. Find a place to stay, book your flight, and let us plan out the week for you. We'll tell you where to go. We'll set up some events. All you have to do is show up. And that's a new opportunity that if you would have asked me 6 months ago that I would be doing that this summer, I would have told you no way, But that's a new opportunity, and and connecting with more people and basically showing off my town now can be, an opportunity for this coming summer, and we're really excited about putting this together and showcasing what we have going on and giving people the opportunity to, potentially see houses if they want to see houses while they're over here and take a look at what you can get for your money, to ask questions about, having one-on-one time of like, okay, you really want to make the move. This is what you need to consider, and it's a whole new opportunity to help people that I never thought was there. Like I didn't think that it was going to turn into that, and that's really exciting.
Amanda, when you reflect on your move, what has this new experience taught you? What have you learned so far? And how are you working on improving your Italian language skills?
Yeah, so I think, the learning is just, you continue to just absorb everything that you can, and constantly, you know, I think in all of my travels, always just be humble and accept that you don't know what you don't know, and you're never going to know everything, and there's always opportunities to learn. And I'm learning things about just Sicilian culture, the Italian people, that so much more. I learn something new every single day. I learned this morning, as an example, that because yesterday was International Women's Day, I learned that there is a specific type of flower that is given out on International Women's Day. And you'll see a TikTok about that, and I was lucky enough to receive this flower, but, it's little things like that versus, big learnings like, oh no, you can't buy a car until you have residency. There's big learnings where you're like, and little learnings where, those kinds of things. So I think, just keep an open mind to everything that you run into, and be receptive to learning, and be receptive to feedback, and be receptive of, everything that's going on around you, and know that you're not doing this on your own. You're not the first to do this. You're not going to be the last to make a move like this. So there's, don't be afraid to ask the questions. And, when it comes to learning the language, I think it's don't be afraid to be wrong, to just at least try. People will correct you. I was out last night. I got corrected multiple times. That's fine. I'm not going to learn without people, correcting me. So, but at least I'm trying, because a lot of people, they know I'm American. They know English is my first language. So they'll speak to me in English, but I try the best that I can to try my Italian. so that I can, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes, especially when I get nervous, I like Italian just leaves my head. I like forget the words completely. Um, but when I can, I try to use Italian as much as I possibly can, and I don't worry anymore about maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm saying it wrong, because then Google Translate can always help me get through that situation. But people will be much more receptive if you at least try. And that's how, practice makes perfect. Just keep on going. Don't be afraid. I think there was always that initial, well, what if I screw up, or what if I say the words wrong, or what if, even if you mix English and Italian when you're speaking with people, and that happens sometimes too, where I'll say, come si dice, and a word that I don't know, and people will help me. And, I've seen, especially in this town, as much as I want to learn Italian, people also want to learn English. And, so we're helping each other through the languages as well, which is really nice.
So, Amanda, do you feel that an increasing number of people are open to the idea of moving to Italy and Sicily?
I think people are definitely curious. They want to see, the lifestyle, and, you have some, it's interesting because you see on social media, sometimes I get the, true Sicilians that used to live here, and they're like, that's a ghost town, don't go there, but other people, I think one man's trash is another man's treasure. I used to, a year ago, I lived in a big city in Jakarta, millions of people. I had my own personal driver. I had all this like corporate nonsense. And now I'm happier here, hanging my clothes up to dry and just living a simple life. And we have siesta in the afternoon. And, so it's not a one size fits all kind of lifestyle for anybody. But I do think a lot of people are receptive. I think they're curious. I think, they live vicariously, or it's just a window to something that they don't see every single day in their lives. So I do think people are quite receptive to it. And, the locals, I think they're receptive to people coming in and growing their community, which has been really beautiful to see. And, they've been really welcoming once they see people are not here to exploit it. They're here to grow and really be a part of the community, and live this wonderful lifestyle that the Sicilians have been living for so many years. And, showing up and learning about their culture and being respectful of their culture and embracing it the same way the Sicilians are. I think it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful to watch.
How is the security situation there? For example, is it safe to go out at night?
I mean, it's no different than any other town. Do we have, petty crime? Yes, of course, like any town, right? Use your street smarts. Don't go walking around as a single woman at 3 o'clock in the morning, where there's no good lighting. I mean, it's just obvious, things. I think I feel safer here than I do in many places because the community is so small, and my pink hair helps that everybody knows who I am. So don't you mess with me. so.
Amanda, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure hearing your story and learning about your life in Sicily, Italy. Hopefully, we'll catch up again once your beautiful home is completed. We truly appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
I'd love that, and it's been wonderful talking with you as well.
And that wraps up another episode of New Horizons by Migration ETC. We hope you enjoyed this conversation and gained valuable insights into the world of migration, relocation, and new beginnings. If you found this discussion helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories, expert insights, and all things migration. Stay tuned for more interviews, tips, and deep dives into the journey of moving abroad. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep chasing new horizons. See you in the next episode.